episode of Jarring Science for Kids. I'm the Jarring Science Club founder, Brenda, and in today's experiment, we're going to be making ice in 5 seconds. Here's what you'll need. All you need for this activity is a jar with 2 ice cubes in it, or 1, and a bottle of water. Now, the secret to this science experiment is having water that is cooled to the perfect temperature. Because bottled water is so pure, the water inside the bottle can drop below freezing without forming crystals until it's either hit with force or until it is poured out and the molecules scatter. When the molecules scatter, then they freeze instantly. It looks like the ice is forming in just seconds. Now this experiment is a little bit tricky because your water has to be the exact perfect temperature. So what we like to do is freeze about 6 bottles of water at once, put them in the freezer, check on them in an hour, at an hour and a half, at 2 hours. And the way that you tell if the water is ready is you hit it on the counter. If it quickly freezes to a solid, then you know that your water is ready and you can move on. When you're ready to do the experiment, put your ice inside the jar, put it on a surface, and carefully bring your water with you, the frozen water that is the perfect temperature. If you shake it too much along the way from the freezer to where you're doing the experiment, the water will harden and the experiment won't work. So it's very important to not jostle the water too much. All right, let's get to it. Here are our bottles hanging out in our freezer, waiting to get frozen enough. Okay, our ice is ready because I hit one of the bottles and it started to form ice crystals. See the crystals floating around inside of there. The temperature of the water has to be just right on these. Let's see if this version works a little better. Pour slowly or else the water will melt the ice instead of freezing it into a tower. There we go, now we're getting a nice tower. There it goes. Our tower's forming. And that's how you do it. Today you made ice instantly. How does it work? Here's the science. When water freezes, the water molecules come together in a very structured pattern that creates crystals. When these crystals form, they become hard, which means that the molecules are moving slower than they were whenever the crystals were in water form. In order for water to change into crystals, heat energy has to be lost and it goes somewhere. The reason that your ice crystals only form after you pour out the water or hit it on a surface is due to how ice crystals form. Ice crystals form around impurities in the water. Bottled water is an extremely pure form of water that contains almost no impurities. So even though the water is cold enough to freeze, there's nothing for those crystals to cling to, so they don't form until you hit it and cause those molecules to collide, forming ice crystals very rapidly. This happens when you pour the ice onto an existing seed ice or when you hit the jar. When water suddenly turns to ice, as in this experiment, it's considered a snap freeze. If you listen carefully to the weather during the winter, sometimes you'll hear your weather person talk about snap freezes. This is dangerous when you're driving because ice can suddenly form on roads, making it dangerous to drive. That's it for today. See you next time.